Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast. It is the most wonderful week of the year. Brian's entitled to his wrong opinions, but I'm very excited for the Masters.
We just got through with the most wonderful 3 weekends of the year of the NCAA tournament, so we can't then also say that this week is exciting.
I watched all of maybe 5 minutes of everything past the first 2 days. So basically, I watched a little bit on Thursday and Friday, sweating a few bets. And then the only thing I watched was Duke blowing it to Houston right at the very end, just so we could start recording. And that's it. And
Unbelievable. That is blasphemy.
I didn't miss a single thing. I didn't care. It didn't bother me. But
that is just absurd.
We can talk Darlington because I did care. It did bother me. But we can also dive into Bristol because we're going to Bristol, baby. Very excited to dive into there. Brian is already spraying the board. I have yet to pull out my toolie, as they say. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting week. We'll let him do some convincing, and we'll see what I do or do not get in on. But before we do that, let's talk all things Darlington. Because, Brian, was it a fun race? Did you have fun? Was it a good race, or was it annoying? I don't know. It was weird because, like, obviously, we had lots of Tyler Reddick. Not a surprise to anyone who's watched us very long. Ryan Blaney on the long run, just getting there. It was kind of annoying because Reddick had to fight through all that traffic. And then when he got around him, and then when Blaney was coming, everyone's just like, oh, should I move over? I think I'll move over. And he just drove right by everybody. And he was making up 6 cents, 8 tenths, a whole second. And all of a sudden, he was bumper door clear.
Look, as somebody who went into that race with limited pre-practice or even post-practice outright tickets, the ending of that thing was one of the most heart-wrenching ends of a race that I've seen in quite some time because, I've become accustomed to, I was smashing the live board on both Tyler Reddick numerous times, and I grabbed Ryan Blaney at double digits twice. You could tell pretty much from about lap, I don't know, it was like halfway through stage 1. As good as William Byron was, that's just clean air. Look, I think it's just expected at any track we go to in this car, especially at 1.5 or 1.33, whatever miles Darlington is. The guy out front is going to be running the fastest usually. But the speed that Ryan Blaney was able to exhibit while passing cars late in the run was absurd. I mean, we're talking 5-6 tenths better than everybody else. And this is while he's using the non-preferred bottom to get past guys. He was the only car in the field that made everything look easy. It did not matter if he had to pass high, pass low, tire disadvantage at some point, did not matter. Ryan Blaney was inevitable this last Sunday. And the fact that we had another, just pardon my French, bullshit caution that was totally unnecessary at the end of that race, I was left in shock and sick to my stomach at the end there. Especially, my heart was literally pounding out of my chest holding numerous Tyler Reddick tickets at 12 and 14 to 1. So I was praying that the guys held Blaney up and Reddick was able to hold on. But even with Blaney passing him, I was going to come away a happy camper. I can't even go on any longer. It's just going to irritate me more.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about it a little more. Byron obviously was the dominant car all day. So as we shift over and talk a little DraftKings here in a second.
But was he really?
Well, in terms of for DraftKings scoring, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
he led like 80% of that race. He wasn't
He led the
the best
first
car.
243 laps, I think it
Yeah.
was, or something.
And of course, Denny finds a way to get to victory lane, which everybody was surely gonna expect. It was weird. And Wormy even talked a little bit in his pre-race poll or his post-race poll rather. Like it seemed like apparently you can, if you're close enough to the front, you can just kind of speed off of pit road and you can just floor it and go past people. Cause like I was like,
Yeah, but
oh,
I don't think he actually did that. I think it looked that way, but
it felt like he like all the other guys were just kind of going and he just like boom, stepped on it and went.
well, the
And
way that most guys are able to accelerate out of their box, and I think what winds up happening is guys when they hit the gas immediately after after the jack drops, they probably exceed the speed limit for a second as they're getting up to speed, but when they
yeah,
get into rolling pace, they're actually under the speed limit. And so, I mean, we can talk about that all day being the deciding factor, but in the end, it was really the fact that like guys sucked at restarts. I mean, all day, both Tyler Reddick and Ryan Blaney more so on restarts, they weren't gaining spots. They were either maintaining or losing. And so that's where the race was won and lost, is the fact that Denny on that final restart, he basically blew the doors off of everybody and just ran away while everybody battled side by side behind him.
yeah, it was pretty funny that that Reddick and Blaney were basically the two best cars on the long run and basically didn't have a chance to win it at the end because they were a long run car, not a short run car.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
So
where that was something that we talked about heading into the race, was the variance that happens at Darlington. And it seems to be that the best car just doesn't win here because of that type of stuff happening.
yeah, and I'm gonna be interested in kind of going forward, thinking about like, do we need to be, especially post practice, targeting the cars that are best on the long run, expecting there to be some sort of shootout at the end, and maybe they figure out the long run speed rather than going, this car is amazing on the long run speed, but if they dominate 90% of the race and don't win, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how I feel. Let us know down in the comments. Who did you think was the best car? Did you think it should have been Blaney and Reddick for the win? Obviously, the way Blaney was coming, he was going to fly by Reddick, but um, it was an interesting race for sure. So let's pull up DraftKings. We can talk a little more, and then we'll also look at our betting card. Which honestly, it was a bloodbath, but like as much as it was a bloodbath, it was like actually made a little bit back, and it wasn't
Yeah.
like as gross as it was and as good as it could have been, it was actually not as bad as it could have been either. So, if you are here for the first time and you have yet subscribed, or if you're here for multiple times and you have yet to click subscribe, make sure you do that. Also, smash that like button. We're here twice a week talking DraftKings, talking betting, talking NASCAR in general. So this is our first lineup. It was a rough week on DraftKings after a few weeks of being really, really awesome. It was a rough week, mostly because we had a lot of Kyle Larson, and when you crash on lap 5, it kind of puts you right behind the 8 ball and then kicks you down a cliff. Tyler Reddick, good. Ryan Blaney, good. Alex Bowman. The race was also really weird with that caution that kind of flipped the field and got all the jabronis up front. Whenever that
Yes.
happens, I feel like we get screwed in some way. So that wasn't fun. Obviously, Brad K was really good until he wasn't, and his nut came off, and he was sliding around. How he kept the tire on that car, I guess, because he had it pitched sideways, almost like he was drifting or something. But
Yeah.
he was able to bring it around and get it. So I mean, he wasn't like an abject disaster, but he was like a top 7 to 8
I was just
car.
gonna say he was definitely a top 10 car, because
Yeah,
something I had texted you, I think I had texted you about midway through the race, and I was just like, this Ford long run speed is legit. Like what we
yeah.
saw in practice from these guys was real, and you could tell that the Mustangs were coming and very fast at the end of runs. And Keselowski was one of the guys who was showing off the best in that particular area until the pit cycle happened. And then obviously the loose tire. And then even after that, it was interesting because I was still monitoring his lap times. His pace was still up to par with the top 6 to 10 cars. Even after that whole incident occurred, it's just he got stuck multiple laps down and he was never able to make that back.
Yeah. Even Josh Berry, similar situation. Obviously, Reddick tries to slide up in front of him. It looked like Berry came down a little bit. They kind of met in the middle. Of course, Berry is the one that takes the brunt of it, ends up crashing, which, as people betting Tyler Reddick, I was happy it was Berry, not Reddick. But he was having a really good day, and I thought he would be in contention for a top 10-ish day.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. Obviously, Kyle Larson starting 19th, finishing 37th isn't great. Byron was awesome. Chastain was strong. The Bowman, Dylan, and Justin Haley.
We warned ourselves and everybody watching.
We sure did.
I will say though, I feel like Dylan was much better than the result that he got. He was better than Haley, and he was probably more along the lines of a top 15 car. But because of the whole incident with Keselowski when they finally threw that yellow, he was one of the guys that got trapped a lap down, had to take a wave around, which then just kind of put you behind the 8 ball in terms of tires and all that stuff. So
yeah. So another similar lineup.
And then real quick, how appropriate was it that the first guy who loses talent is Kyle Larson? We had talked about the wide range of variance he presents at a track like this that can just eat you up. And sure enough, lap 4, I believe it was, he's the first one spinning, wrecking his car.
Did it to himself, basically.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
It's not like anyone got under him or anything.
Honestly, it looked eerily similar to what was happening to me last week on iRacing when I would be running my first timed lap because the tires still weren't up to temp. And so it was very slick coming out of 2, and he was probably too hard on the gas pedal inside somebody. And
obviously we're almost at the end of the race, right, Brian? It's not like he's
exactly
just started.
Yeah. Good gracious.
I did build this doozy, which somehow managed to cash even with Kyle Larson in it.
Wow.
So this was my Austin Hill, Justin Haley, Noah Gragson, Byron, and Reddick. So finishing in the top 100 in the $8 octane was pretty. Or this is a single entry.
And then real quick before we get off of DK, I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back here. Cody Ware absolutely destroyed JJ Yaley in the running order. I mean, Yaley's car essentially blew up and did exactly what I had talked about him not being able to complete the whole race. And so that was definitely the move, although both of them were
trash,
as we call them, shit boxes. Like Cody Ware lucked into a decent finishing position.
Let's see. Yeah, so you needed Denny, you needed Blaney, Byron, of course. Ty Dillon. We picked the wrong Dillon. You tried to get me on Ty Dillon. I was like, nah. He was the right Dillon.
What's crazy about Ty Dillon this year is that he's kind of been flying under the radar in terms of just being really solid and running his own races, getting really good results, like much better results than people are anticipating.
I think he's in much better equipment than he's ever been in, and I think his actual talent is coming through. Maybe Ty Dillon's actually the more talented Dillon. And if we put him in an RCR car, we may see a little different result. Let's go to the bet tracker. So kind of a mess, but we ended up getting a few bets that kind of helped save our day. Gibbs over KFB. Good result, bad process.
No. So honestly, I feel like that's a good result from a good process because Kyle Busch was worse than Ty Gibbs. Gibbs, yes, on the long run, he started to fall off, just like all the JGR cars were. That being said, Busch was no better there. And the fact that he had looked as bad as he had been leading into the race, I didn't understand any sort of optimism for KFB, while Gibbs at least had shown speed on Saturdays heading into races prior to this.
Yeah, and Martinsville, he actually had a good, decent race. Like, obviously, he wasn't great, but he showed speed on Saturday, and he brought it on Sunday, which was good to see. It put another positive step forward. So, obviously, that's not what you want to hear from a JGR car, of a guy who's kind of finishing mid-pack and having positive results. But, yeah. And then 23-11 over Penske, that was our I think our favorite bet. And I like that a lot. Obviously,
thank God that we got that restart.
yeah, we got a little lucky on the restart, and somehow Tyler Reddick got in front of him, so he was just a little bit faster in the short run. So shouts to that. And then obviously Reddick over Blaney. So Blaney was really good. I'm going to be curious when we come back for the playoffs how we're going to view him, because like we pointed out, 3 top 10s in 16 starts, not typically very good here, but obviously is an incredible racer. Had a rocket on Sunday. Yes, Brian.
I'm basically throwing out all of Ryan Blaney's past negatives.
Okay.
For the rest of this year. His car is Kyle Larson 2021 faster than everybody else right now. I know we talked about Christopher Bell earlier this year, which, I mean, maybe I jumped the gun on that a little bit, but in terms of equipment, there is nobody in the sport unloading or as fast as the 12 car on Sundays. It's not even close.
Yeah, because I feel like you either need to throw out everything and be like, he's a rocket, he's going really fast, jump in on him, or you go, this week he was really fast and he was a rocket. And obviously we'll have a bunch of races between now and the next Darlington race, which will come in the playoffs. But it'll be interesting to see how we view him and how the books view him, and then how we bet him, because you could easily make the case that this was just kind of a blip, but he's been better. He just hasn't had the good results, and
I was just gonna say,
able to finish it, and he didn't even really finish as good as the cars he had. He could have been he probably should have won, but yeah.
Okay. So all things being equal, I think we can admit that Blaney wasn't as good at Martinsville as like I anticipated, or even sportsbooks had anticipated. But at the 4 of the other 5 races in the last month plus, I still believe wholeheartedly he was the best car, and he wins outside of engine blowing up or issues that were not of his design. Like this race right here, had his pit crew not lost him spots early in the race, I think Ryan Blaney's out front with 30 to go, not 4 to go like it was. And he's absolutely destroying the field, way more so than what William Byron had.
Yeah, and shouts to Denny's pit crew, who like basically saved in 2 seconds and got his car right back on the track. So that was insane too. Yeah, I'm curious to see how we view him. I also want to shout out our smart listeners who pointed out that the difference between the spring and the fall at Martinsville, and like how you know, we've seen it with Blaney at most places, where just that long run consistency is so important in getting that longer race in the fall. Is the reason why he's so much better there in the fall. So you had Penske or 23-11 over Penske as well. You also had Elliott over Logano. So those were your 2 bets of the week. And then Bubba, Gibbs, 83. Priest should have been a top 10 car, probably.
Yeah, he was easily a top 10 car. But he was probably a top 5 car with track position like everybody else. Just the long run speed, and then
Bubba was pretty frustrating.
Well, him too. Like, honestly, he was one of the better longer run vehicles, but he also got trapped a lap down during that. I believe it was the Keselowski incident. The only 2 guys who had pit at the early portion of that run that actually got back on the lead lap were Ryan Blaney and Tyler Reddick.
Yeah. If it wasn't Ryan Blaney, Bubba's good friend, do you think Bubba fights a little harder to keep whoever's trying to chase his teammate down behind him?
Honestly, he did. So that's the thing, is guys were taking the preferred line. They were running high. It just goes back to what I said, that Blaney's car was just so much better at using the bottom, and it didn't matter. It literally did not matter. Somebody could have tried to block, and Blaney had a cheat code to where his car would just stick wherever he wanted it to go.
Well, we're still in the green on the season, just good. I'm up 16.2 units. You're up 6.7 units. Gave a little bit back this week, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think I lost a half a
Anything
unit or
else,
something.
Darlington, before we turn the page and talk a little Food City?
Yeah, like I know Jeff Gluck's poll finalized. They got like a less than 50% yes vote, and I completely understand the discourse of people saying it was boring because William Byron led the whole race, but in the same breath that I give shit to F1 about it being hashtag race to turn one and the leader running away from this, I don't think there was ever a point of that race that I did not personally think that either Tyler Reddick or Ryan Blaney was going to get there at some point if we had long enough runs. And so it never felt over in NASCAR. And especially with, we have the stage breaks, we have those random cautions during green flag pit cycles, which that was an exciting moment in stage 3 when green flag cycle actually began. And you saw Reddick jump the field and you got to see how good his car was on slightly better tires when he got out front. Like, I don't think it was a comparison. Reddick's car was better than Byron's in the lead in clean air. And imagine Blaney, had he been out front, he probably laps the field up to like 8th or 7th, like Larson did last fall, like at Bristol. So
Yeah.
Blaney's
Go ahead.
Blaney should have won. I'm going to continue to go back to that. It wasn't close.
Byron had a great car in clean air, but as soon as that thing got in any sort of dirty air, it was loose, it was squirrely, and he would sink. So I'm with you. If he could have maintained it, maybe he gets it done. But I felt like who's going to pass Byron to win? Not Byron's going to dominate this race till the end.
Exactly. That was exactly my sentiment. Is when is Blaney going to get there? That was in my mind pretty much the entire race.
That being said, I do want to think about Byron, not necessarily just Byron, but like the guy that I think can win the race and has been awesome at a track and is priced probably longer than he should, knowing how good he can be. And, we talked about him a ton at 9 and 10, and neither of us bought it. And obviously he doesn't win. But I think process wise, if there's a guy like that who's clearly long, that has been amazing at a track and clearly can be one of the best cars and can qualify well based on where they start qualifying, it's probably a number to, even if we don't go full hog in, grab a piece of it and see what happens after qualifying, knowing that it's good to have in the portfolio.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, let's turn our attention to the Food City 500 as we go to Bristol, baby. We got Kyle Larson at between 4.5. There's a 490 at Fanduel. Denny Hamlin's right there with him. There's as long as 5. Then you get Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott. That is all of the options inside 10-1. I know we're getting better about this, but are you interested in anyone inside 10-1?
No. That's just I honestly at this point, Ryan Blaney at 7.5. Again, just going back to what I was saying, like throw out everything that we've seen from this guy in the past. He's going to be fast as hell again, and he's qualified on the
You
pole
can get
once
8
before
at Bet
here.
Rivers.
Like, I think he's probably the best number at this moment. I mean, you also have to consider like Denny is fantastic here at Bristol. He won the spring race, but that was a rando incident of the weird tires, which is not going to happen again. It looks like it's going to be overcast, which means less tire fall off and quite possibly another Kyle Larson beating of everybody. But I'm not getting down at 4 pre-practice and qualifying.
Yeah, no. I think I need to see cars on track. That being said, I'm tempted to fire on the Christopher Bell at 7. I think it's interesting enough given where the rest of his market is. I think shorter than 7, I'm not interested, but I think 7, I could twist my arm and get me there.
Look, the best number is Blaney 8. I'm going to I'm going to continue to pound the desk for the rest of the
Pound
year. But the hard part is knowing that he's never won here. Like, he's got all those guys in front of him who are much better. It's just so hard getting down on a number that is only priced where it is, because books know if they post him in that William Byron range, they're going to take on so much money. He creates such a huge liability that they wouldn't be able to recover if he wins.
Yeah.
You know, like, he should be in that 12 range. He shouldn't be 8 when he's never had the success.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, Chase ain't it. So let's go to the next range. Byron 12. Briscoe as long as 25. I guess we should have probably included Byron in the last group, but
Yeah,
Byron,
well,
Briscoe, Gibbs, Keselowski, Chastain, Bubba, I mean, pretty much anyone. Let's stop at Josh Berry, basically 30 something and in. Berry, Reddick, Busch, Logano, Busher, Bubba, Ross, Keselowski, Gibbs, Briscoe, and Byron. Are you adding any of those names to the card?
yeah, I'm wearing his hat right now. Where's Busher 32? Where is that? I have it at 33.
That's FanDuel.
Yeah, I still think 32 is a fine number on a guy who he's been pretty good here at Bristol. He's been solid at Dover, which is the closest comp track according to our friend iFantasy Race. He's probably going to be starting as high up as he ever has here at the last great Coliseum with how good he's been performing of late, and the fact that Chris Buescher has been qualifying pretty damn good compared to past seasons. He's currently averaging, I think, a starting spot just inside 12th, which is like 8 spots or 7 spots better than last year. And so Buescher's number to me is definitely going to get shorter after he's runs practice. And we know Buescher's a good long run car. He's really the only outright that I'm on in this range of guys that I would consider legit race winning potential.
What's your number where you're out? So like, would you bet it at 30?
Yeah, no, I still think 30 is a fine number.
28.
I think I still get down on 28. 25 is
25.
kind of I was just going to say 25 is the point where I really start to question whether or not I'm interested.
Okay. So
But
if you can get 30, 28 to 30, you're probably in.
But again, I'm also the same dude who went and played Ryan Preece at 25 post practice and qualifying, which I felt was a great number. He had a great car.
Honestly, if that race doesn't flip the field right there and he gets stuck and kind of has a rough end to his race, I think that's a good bet. The first half of that race, he looked like a guy that should be in that conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, he's clearly not the Reddick or the Blaney at 5 or 6 or 7, but when you're getting 25 instead of 5 or 6 or 7, it makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a couple 25s on Chase Briscoe if you really want to get in on that. MGM has it. It's a good week to shop. Looks like there's a lot of about potential values in the market. You can get 28 on Brad when there's like 18s other places.
I just
do you have any?
So
Go ahead.
Keselowski to me is still somebody that, whether it's just completing a race or proving on back-to-back weeks that he can be really strong, I'm not really interested in Kez right now.
Yeah. And to your point on Buescher, over the last 4 Bristol races, he's one of the 3 drivers to have won. Denny Hamlin has won 2, Larson has won 1, and you can see they're priced inside 5 to 1. So to get a driver at 25, 28, 30, who's actually won here, and has, let's see here, he has two top 5s, so he's a little bit behind Bell and Elliott. But you're not asking him to just finish strong; you're asking him to win, something Chase Elliott may or may not be able to do. Yeah, he's also led the 5th most laps, so that's interesting. Behind somebody that at these numbers I'm not really interested in. 25 Tyrone. Ugh.
Ty Gibbs is 14-1 at BetMGM right now. I don't
What are we
understand that.
doing?
I don't understand that level of optimism. I mean, full disclosure, I did text Kyle. I grabbed a little bit of this at a much longer price
Yeah.
in Vegas, but I am in no way, shape, or form at all interested in Ty Gibbs in the mid-teens or even in these 20s.
Yeah, it needed to be like what 33, 35 before you start thinking about it.
Honestly, I think the discussion doesn't even start for me until it's 40.
Yeah. Especially when you
Like,
can get Busher at 32, 33.
exactly. And that's what I don't understand is why are people betting Tyrone when you can get a guy like Busher or even a guy like Bubba? Hell, Bubba's been one of the best cars all season. And just because he got mired back in traffic after being trapped a lap down last week, and he had a result not indicative of how good his car was, why the hell are people betting Tyrone Gibbs at half the price? Like, what is happening this week?
Yeah, it's certainly a decision. It's not me, I can tell you that. I'm not touching that number, and I like to bet
Yeah.
bad numbers. And we're not betting our guy 4-5, right?
No, this is not a place that Tyler Reddick is strong at. I don't anticipate him being a race winner.
He should be priced like longer, but because his name's Tyler Reddick.
That's name value for sure.
Okay, let's go over to the speakeasy and run through a couple other things to see if anything jumps out. Is there any potential values on anyone not named Denny Hamlin? Like, if you want to bet Ty Gibbs at 7 to be top Toyota, I don't hate that. I'd much
I would have
rather.
to shop. I would have to shop his top 3, top 5 prices.
Well, we can just do that. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like obviously, well, I don't think we have those
I
yet.
think Bet365 has him.
Okay, let's pull that up.
Oh my gosh.
Tell the
Yeah.
share with the class.
Yeah, so I mean, Bet365 has Gibbs top 3 at plus 650. And honestly, I would probably rather grab that at a 50-cent discount, knowing that opens up the possibility that both Denny and Christopher Bell can finish in front of him, which is definitely a real possibility based on their past performances here as well.
What if I told you can get top 5 at 325? I think I like that better. Because that gives me Larson, Denny and Bell, Denny and Denny and Blaney and Larson, and I can still cash that bet. Like, I feel I'd much rather do the 325 than even like 6 or 7. To be
But I mean, if we're going to talk about top 5 numbers, let me present to you who are you rather playing? Ty Gibbs at plus 325 or Chris Buescher at 5-1?
At 5-1.
Yeah, like it goes back to the perception of like just basing this off of last year's races, when you also have to account for how a guy has looked in the current season, especially when you see a guy like Ryan Blaney, for instance, who's putting all of past performances in the garbage and outperforming whatever past expectations have brought on him. And the same thing, Chris Buescher, like when you look at the way he's ran here at Bristol, he's no slouch, man.
Yeah.
Like he's freaking good.
What about 750 for a top Ford?
Yeah, see, and I think that's also a market this week where you're going to be able to get down on somebody like Buescher. Also expecting Bristol again is a track. I mean, we say this far too often in the Gen 7 era, but track position. Buescher is going to have that.
What about track position?
Like Buescher is going to have that built in. Much like, you talk about other guys. Oh, he sucks at qualifying. Chris Buescher only has one qualifying run worse than 14th, and that was at Austin. That was at Coda.
Yeah.
Every other place that we've gone so far this year, Buescher's qualifying efforts, Daytona 6th, Atlanta 8th, Phoenix 13th, Vegas 11th, Homestead 11th, Martinsville 6th, Darlington 14th. The dude is actually qualifying really well this year, which is something we are not accustomed to. And he's parlaying these into top 8 finishes. Like, he's right there to begin the race, which is all we've ever asked out of him.
Let me ask you a question. Chase Briscoe, he's probably not. He probably doesn't have a very good qualifying spot this week. Have you looked at that yet?
Well, I think so. They go based on a couple factors. It's the previous race result and also standings. But because of Briscoe finishing 28th, he might fall outside the second group, maybe go really early in the second group.
Yeah, because they haven't announced it yet, right?
No, that normally comes out on Wednesdays.
Because Chase Briscoe has started 5th, 6th, and 2nd. And if we're talking track position and a guy who, no, I can't convince you that like 8-1 for a top Toyota makes a little sense.
I don't see him starting that far up the field. I did a little qualifying reconnaissance this morning here at Bristol, and during my quick overlook, and obviously this is based on the previous format of having the 2 separate groups, I think the highest a Group 1 driver has placed after Group 2 went was 4th. And I think that was like 2 years ago with Christopher Bell. And then outside of that, like the second or third best guys that go in the first group, or in this case, this year, the first half of the qualifying order, they're probably being placed like 8th or 9th in terms of overall speed for that first run, not accounting for the second round. So guys who are not in Group 2 this week, they're going to have a really difficult time finding a top 10 starting position, and also likely probably starting well outside the top 10 because of the fact that we're looking at a cooler track condition this weekend, which means the track is probably just going to get faster as the day goes on.
Truex also took the 19 and put it in the top 5 starting position, 7 of 9. So I feel like I want to bet.
We're talking about Hall of Fame driver, like, and we tried the part, but early in the year, I think that was good data to look at because of how well Truex had traditionally been qualifying and where he was normally running in the qualifying order when going to Bristol. But I don't think you can. I don't think the two are easy like flip flops this year with this new format of qualifying. I could be completely off base here, but I'm not interested in
chance
that's
the case. Yeah. Getting some Byron, I think, could be fun too. I don't really know how I'm going to do it, but I think it's possible. Let's see any matchups. Oh, we have some qualifying matchups. Briscoe's minus 145 against Bowman. That gives another little feather in my cap for the Briscoe thoughts.
Oh my gosh. Can you scroll down?
I can, yeah.
Oh, they took it off. All right. So on the sheet.
Did you beat him up, Brian?
Apparently I started a, yeah. All right. So on the sheet, I'm keeping track of this because I bet this. This was one of the first bets I actually made this week. And I gave it out in a Discord that I do for work and in the Discord of Win the Race.
Yeah, another reason to get in the Discord is as Brian finds these bets, he does post them. So if you don't want to wait until Wednesday when our pod drops, you want to get on some of this Monday night, Tuesday morning, join our friends over at Win the Race, where Brian is active in the Discord. You get projections for DraftKings, you get sims for betting, you get some fair market value, all that kind of good stuff. So
it was Chris Buescher plus 105 over Ryan Preece in qualifying. I understand the excitement over Ryan Preece's qualifying effort last week at Darlington, qualifying on the front row. But Chris Buescher, as I've already alluded to, has been the best qualifying RFK car, and it's not close. He's beaten Preece in 7 of the 8 races this year. The only one that he didn't was last week in Darlington. And Preece is probably going mid of Group 1 because of the fact that he did not get the finish that he probably deserved this last week in Darlington. There is no doubt in my mind that Chris Buescher is qualifying ahead of Ryan Preece this week.
Should we take the Kyle Larson candy? I know he doesn't traditionally start great here.
Remember, Kyle Larson is also, so because of his basically
Oh, good point.
Larson is going to be going, man, trying to project this out.
Yeah,
because
but is this like a jabroni going late, or is this like when we thought Brian Blaney was going to be late and then he ended up being like third?
No. So I fully agree with that assessment, but you're talking about him going up against one of the best qualifiers at Bristol in the sport, Christopher Bell.
That's true. This is why we do this, folks. I throw out wild ass shit and let Brian bring me off the ledge.
And to be honest, I would almost hit that Bell minus 125 number, knowing how early Larson is going to be going out, because when you look at their qualifying efforts, Bell 8th, 1st, he grabbed the pole in fall of 2023, 12th last spring, which I think the spring race can kind of be discounted a little bit in qualifying because of the different tire. And then also the race, I'm not using the race at all to handicap this week for what it's worth. And then he qualified 6th in the fall on the tires that we had expected to be there. Whereas Kyle Larson, his average qualifying effort in the 4 Gen 7 eras, or the 4 Gen 7 races, is 13.3. 5th, 36th, which obviously that means he wrecked his car, 10th in the spring, and on the front row in the fall. So they're close enough to tell me that the cars are almost equal fast. But then when you account for the large gap and when they're going in the qualifying order this week, there's a massive advantage for Christopher Bell. Oh my gosh. And now Kyle's searching for a pole.
Well, I'm just using some of the information you've been providing and comparing the matchup for qualifying versus what their actual odds are and seeing if there's something there that tickles your fancy.
Yeah, and I do think when you look at this stuff too, I do think that a guy like Buescher, for instance, who he's not somebody we ever really think about grabbing pole, but he's 35-1 right now. That's a massive number for a car.
He's behind Carson Hocevar, Cole Custer, Michael McDowell, Ryan Preece, Tyler Reddick.
He's been very fast in qualifying this year, people. I might nibble on that 35 price just for the hell of it.
I think it's fine. I think that's a fun bet. I don't think grabbing an Alex Bowman 8 is worth your time, but 35. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and Bowman just like Larson, he had a shit result last week in Darlington. He's also not going to be going where you kind of want to in order to grab the pole here. And I do not think this is a place that you can do what Ryan Blaney did at Homestead.
Okay. Well, we get through a lot of good stuff here. Is there any other matchups you want to throw out for the fine folks, or any other potential targets? Anyone not named Chris Buescher that might make an appearance on your betting card? I know it's early.
Yeah, so one of the guys that I was shopping early in the week before odds even came out, just kind of doing my normal race preparation. We give him a lot of crap on this show. He's got the moniker Ace, but Chase Elliott, he's been solid here at Bristol. And, obviously I don't use all of the data to make me lean places, but I do factor in what iFantasy Race says. Obviously, all the stuff at Win the Race. But Ryan over at iFantasy Race, he has Dover as being the closest comp track to Bristol. And when you go look at the strongest performers at that track and see that Chase Elliott, that's one of his best tracks in terms of consistency, finishing inside the top 10, running near the top 5. That just screams strong run to me for the 9 car this week. And it's just trying to figure out how I want to get exposure to him with his numbers opening up so short.
Yeah. Yeah, because like 9-1 even is like not really that appealing.
Yeah, because we've said this numerous times already. He's really good, but I don't think he's got the race winning speed.
Okay. Well, it was good to get back. It was good to talk all things Darlington. It was good to start diving into Bristol. As I mentioned, Brian and I are both going to be active in the Discord as well as active on Twitter. So at Notorious KRO, at Brian_Twining, we'll be throwing extra bets out there as markets become available and more bets appear interesting to us. So we'll get those out as we add them to the card. I do want to show Brian's crazy card as we sit here right now. And yes, folks, you are seeing that correctly. Busher over Priest qualifying, Busher to get the pole, Busher to win, Busher top 5, and top 10. So if you want to fade the hell out of Brian, just basically fade Chris Buescher and you will win all the money. I did jump in on his top 5 at 5-1. I think that's a good bet. I'm not quite as optimistic in terms of winning the race, but I think he'll be close. But I just think names like Denny, who could get a second three-peat for JGR this year, which is insane to think about. Kyle Larson, some of the other guys and as you mentioned with Ryan Blaney, how fast he's been, just kind of in general. A lot to get into, a lot of names, so I'm not gonna quite go too crazy, but. If you are in on a Buescher, if you're in on somebody in the Toyota camp, if you're in on somebody in the Ford camp, there's opportunity if you don't want to bet a Ryan Blaney, a Denny Hamlin, or a Kyle Larson. So if you have someone you love, you think they could be awesome, you think they can beat them, take a look at that because before practice and qualifying, before we see cars on track, you might be able to get a really good number on somebody. If they come out, they qualify well, they look really good. And whatnot. It could be, here we go. More Chris Buescher. Perfect. Brian puts on the Chris Buescher hat and it's just 17, 17, 17 all day. All day. So we'll see how smart Brian is when we reconvene Saturday night, post-practice and qualifying. Make sure you check out the draft over on Win the Races YouTube channel. It's a really fun podcast. Like I mentioned, we'll be firing off bets. The completely free newsletter, aoppodcast.substack.com, aoppodcast.substack.com. Link is in the description. Appreciate everybody who's been subscribing. I noticed numbers have been going up over there, so we appreciate everybody going over there. That comes out to you every race day with our favorite bets, DraftKings plays, grid rival thoughts, all kinds of stuff. Anything else before we get out of here, Brian Twining?
Yeah, no, I'm just obviously I'm very excited for this weekend at the Last Great Coliseum, Thunder Valley, fastest half mile in the world, whatever the hell you want to call it. But also got to consider the fact that this is the last race that we really get to bet for the next 2+ weeks. I mean, next week it's Easter break for NASCAR, and then we had the Talladega, which, as we've learned and as you've seen if you've been paying attention this year, Kyle and I definitely throttle back for those now.
Yep. But it is Masters Week, so I know Brian won't give a crap, but you can definitely dabble over there too. There's some fun numbers that can be had. Some golfers.
I will add, it's something I'm also considering. Parlaying Masters winner with, say, somebody like Kyle Larson or Denny Hamlin of the favorites is a great way to get elongated numbers on either side. Like if you're a golf person and you want to get a better number on, say, Scotty Scheffler, you can then add the favorite for NASCAR and you're getting 25 plus to 1. I already tried this out this morning at Caesars. Like you're getting 26 something to 1 on them to both win their tournament / races. But, so I think that's a great fun way to get involved in both of the sports this weekend.
Yep. Scheffler, Hamlin, Scheffler, Larson, I think makes a lot of sense. You could do it with Rory. I don't trust him. You could also do it with like John Rahm if you want to get real aggressive, but think about it. Have some fun. Maybe a few $10 bets just to add to your pool of drivers and or golfers. That is Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you next time.